Hi everyone, Karina here from Lionize. Today I'm going to show you how to create a light and dark mode switch using JavaScript on a Webflow site. This is the finished product. As you can see, here's the switch, and as we switch it, the CSS, the styles all change, and then if we navigate, those style changes go to the next page. If we navigate back, as you can see, it works any number of ways. To do this, we're going to use JavaScript, vanilla JavaScript, and I'm going to assume you have basic JavaScript knowledge, so it won't be getting into what a variable is, what a function is, etc. I'm also going to do everything from scratch, so we're going to start with a blank Webflow project. I'm going to apply Finsweet's client first structure to that Webflow project, so if you haven't used that yet, definitely go check out the documentation on the Finsweet website. It's really good. If you just want to apply this to your own project and you don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of it, I've created this finished product as a clonable, and I also have a written blog article that goes through everything, and at the end of that all of the code is there, so that might be a better way to apply it straight to your project without having to watch what will be probably quite a long tutorial. So yeah, let's get started. So to start, I've cloned the client first official starter project. And the first thing we're going to do is to define the color classes for the various style changes. So we go into the style guide that comes with client first, and we want to scroll down till we find the background and text color classes. So here we are. And what we want to do is we're going to create 4 new text color classes and 4 new background color classes. So 2 dark and 2 light for each of them. So we'll select the last one here, text color white, and we probably actually don't need to use text color white. So what we're going to do is we're just going to copy and paste this 3 times. And we'll use the first one as the 4th. So I'll copy that. So we've got 4 there, and then we're just going to change all the labels. So this one is going to be text color dark. So text color dark 1, and we'll change the actual text here so that, text color dark 1. When this tutorial gets really exciting, when I'm just writing out long lists of labels, I will speed this up so you don't have to watch me do this in real time. So what we've done is we've just we've changed the labels and the actual text, but we haven't changed the class. So that is here. You see here where it says text color dark 1, that's the text, but the class remains text color white, as do all of them. So what we want to do now is delete this class there and change the class to text color dark 1 and enter. So here you want to do the exact same thing. You just want to keep deleting the original classes and adding in the new class. Great. So we'll actually change the color shortly, but we're going to do the exact same thing now for the background colors. So if we go down here, and we'll just take the last one here, background color white, and copy and paste that 3 times as well. And that is going to be background color dark 1. That's background color dark 2. Background color light 1. Background color light 2. Now these are just labels. They don't actually do anything, except obviously it's a good reference for you. You can't, you don't want. The labels are meant to represent what the actual classes are, so that's why I'm changing them. So here we're going to change the actual classes again, like with the text. We're going to delete them here. Background color dark 1. Here again, background color dark 2. Background color light 1. Light 2. Okay, so that's done. It was a bit laborious. Now what we want to do is change the actual classes, or we want to make those classes mean something. So we go into the first one here, we'll select the actual text here, and we are going to change it. So let me just scroll to where I have the actual references here. So okay, so text color dark 1. I'm going to copy and paste my pre-selected colors. So we go down to typography where the color, and click on color, and we want to copy and paste the new hex number in there. So just to read it out, 6271A0. That's the first one. And the other thing we need to change is Finsweet, because it was text color white, they put a background color on it. So if we go here just to above the text color that we've changed and just delete that class off the background, you can just leave it empty for now. So now we just have the color class without the black black background on it. So then we'll move to the second one there and do the same thing. So we've got text color dark 2, and my hex code for that, I'll just copy it from there. Go in here, copy it in there. And again, we'll go here, go down to the background color, take away background color black. And move on to the next one, text color light 1. Rather than read out the hex numbers, I will zoom in so you can pause the video. And again, just get rid of that background color. Text color light 2. Okay, so they're the text color styles now all done. And what we want to do is we want to scroll up. Nope, we want to scroll down, and we're going to use the backgrounds that we've already started here. So we just need to find the class, make sure you're on the right class, and go down, scroll down the page here until you get to background. Click into the background color, and again I'm going to copy and paste what I've already defined. So first hex code is there. There we go. Don't know what I did wrong first time there. Okay, so second hex code for these. There we go. First light one. And the last one here. Perfect. So, and there you have it. You've got all of your, the basis for the style, the mode changes are now set. So this is as simple as we're going to make it. You have 2 dark background colors, 2 light background colors. The code that we're going to write now is going to switch between the various elements that we're going to style with these classes using client first. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the home page, and we're going to start structuring the site a little bit more. So to build out the site structure, first thing we're going to do is delete the Finsweet client first message component. So we're in the main wrapper, just click on home message component and just delete all that. So we're going to start from scratch inside the main wrapper. You can leave the global styles there. So first of all, we're going to create a section div. So I'm just going to add a div block inside the main wrapper there. And we're going to add a section, and we're going to call it Hero Home. And the styles we're going to apply to this section div. First thing, we're going to make it full height. So in height, we're going to put 100 VH, so it just spans the full viewport height, like that. And we're also going to make it display flex, and we're going to center it horizontally, but we're going to center it, align it, and justify it centered. And then inside that section, we are going to do 2 wrapper divs. Actually, sorry, first we're going to add some padding. So we're just going to add in the Finsweet padding global class, which just adds 2.5 rem on either side, and it's just a really good kind of structure to have for your projects. Inside the padding then we're going to add some wrapper divs. We'll call the first one Hero Home Wrapper Outer, and we're just going to leave that as is. We'll leave that display block because it is currently centered anyway, and inside that wrapper we're going to add what did we call it? Hero Home Wrapper Inner, right there. Okay, now the Hero Home Wrapper Inner I'm going to set to display flex, and again vertical direction this time, and I'm going to align it centered and justify it centered as well. So into this inner wrapper we're going to add in 2 headings. We're going to add in H1 and H2, which are going to be the 2 main headings on the page. So just quickly add the H1 in there. We don't need to write anything. We can fill them out later. I'm just going to get the structure down first, and then add in a H2 under that. And yeah, now that I see it, I don't like the way that looks. So instead of what we did. So this hero home wrapper inner, we are going to align it to the start, to the left. Yeah, that looks better. And then inside this wrapper again, we're going to add in a link block. The link block, we are going to display it flex, horizontal. Yeah, leave it at that. And we'll add in a text first. We don't need to write that yet. And now for the arrow, I'm going to add a little chevron arrow here, going to the right. I'm going to use the Lucide open source. I'll link to that I'll link to that below. And in here, I've already got it set up here. So I've searched for arrow, and if you go in, you click on chevron right. I'm going to use the SVG code. So I'm going to copy that code twice, okay, and go back in here. And what we're going to do is we can just select the link block, and I'm going to add in an embed block inside there, and then just paste that SVG code into the embed code editor. And you can change the width and the height here, but I'm just going to leave it as it is, see what that looks like first. Okay, so it's a little bit big, but we'll work on the styles of this later. So now we have the basic structure for the first page. We've got our two headings and a link, and it's all centered. So now we're going to build up the switch component. So inside section hero home, I'm going to put it, it's not going to be inside padding global. We're going to add a div, and we're going to call this switch component. Inside the switch component, we're going to add another div, and that's going to be just called switch. Inside switch, no, not inside switch. Let me just check that. Yeah, inside switch, we're going to add another div, and that's going to be switch circle. That's going to be the little thing that goes back and forth. Hyphenate, yeah, okay. So we've got our three elements there. Now what we want to do is we want to make the switch component absolute relative to the section hero home. So we'll click on section. We're going to change its position to relative. Click back to switch and make it absolute. And rather than centering it there, we're going to put it in the corner. Now I'm going to give the switch component a fixed width and height, a width of 400 pixels and a height of 200 pixels, like that. And then we're also going to make that display flex, and I'm going to center the elements inside it with align, center, justify, center. So it's got a bit of space there. Now you could do this a million other ways. You could use margins, you could use the position, the percentage here on the position of the absolute, but this is just a simple way to do it. So now if we go into the switch itself, we're going to give it a width of 120 pixels and a height of 60 pixels, and we're going to set that to display flex as well, and we will align it, center align it, but we're going to leave the justification, we're going to leave justify to the left, to the start. So at this point we're also going to set the background for the switch. I've already uploaded a beautiful sunrise image, and that's going to be the switch's background. You can use any image you want that's light. You can use a color. It doesn't really matter. It's up to yourself. So if I go into assets, you can see them there. So I'll click on, not switch circle, sorry, for the switch itself. And we'll scroll down to backgrounds and add the plus there, choose a background image. And we're going to choose this one here, light 2. We're going to set it to cover, and we'll center it as well, just to get as much of the image in the switch as possible. And that looks pretty good. So the other thing we want to do is add a border radius to that so that it's rounded at the edges. And we're going to add a border radius of, let's have a look, about 60 pixels, I think should look nice. So we'll have to do that manually, 60 pixels. Yeah, that looks good, it's nice and rounded. So yeah, your switch should look like this. And then we go into the switch circle itself, and we're going to style that. We're going to give it a width and height property. So we'll give it a width of 45 pixels. And we'll give it a height of 45 pixels as well. It's a circle, so we want it to be completely equal. And we're going to add it a border radius of 50%, which, as you know, creates a perfect circle out of a div. And we're going to give it a margin as well, just to push it a little bit to the left. So I'm going to give it a margin left here of about 6 pixels. Now, so that you can actually see the switch circle and it's not just a transparent square, you want to give it any background color. So I'm just going to go in here and choose like a kind of a reddy color there for now. We're going to change that, so that's going to be part of the style that switches, that the mode switches. So for now we have a switch circle, background color, we have a nice background image there. The last thing we're going to do to the circle is we're going to give it a box shadow, and we'll just use the kind of the default settings here, except that instead of black, I'm going to just drag this down so the alpha is about half. Let's say 55. That looks quite nice. So yeah, that's all set up now. So we have our basic light switch styles. Again, we're going to change the background color of the circle eventually, so it looks a bit nicer and it switches modes properly. Right, so now let's just change what the text says. So for the first heading, we're going to say, welcome to the light. Welcome to the light. And underneath it, we'll say there are many paths to the same goal. And for the link text content, we will say, show me the way. Okay. Now what we want to do is change the font styles, and they're not going to be part of our mode switching. So we're going to change those at the style guide level. So if we click quickly over to the style guide here, and we scroll down to say here. So we'll click on the H1 first. And where it says select class or tag, we're going to choose all H1 headings, and we will scroll down and we were going to set that as a Montserrat extra light. And then for heading 2, we'll do the same thing, but we'll set that for Montserrat, and we're going to set that to light. And then the other text that we use is the link text. So click there, and we're going to set all links, and again, just set that to Montserrat, and we'll leave that at normal. So now if we go across, they should have all changed on our page, and they did, and that looks really good. The only thing I actually will change back now is, now that the text is longer, I think I'm going to center them all the way I had initially. I'll just go in and select the wrapper, the inner wrapper there, and I'm going to change that to center the text because I think that looks better, and we'll add some space and we'll change the styles a little bit more. Right, so before we start applying the classes we made for the mode switching, we're going to apply all the light classes to this page as the default. We're just going to get rid of this underline by selecting the link block here and just removing the decoration. Even if X is selected in Webflow, usually you have to click it again for it to be actually selected. Even if it's not like that, click that to get rid of it. Okay, so we'll start by applying the first class to section hero home, the background. So we'll add background color light 1. And here to dark light heading, the main heading will say text color light 1. And to the subheading, we'll do text color light 2. Right there. To the link, we'll do text color light 2, like that. And to the arrow, text color light 2. Great. So that's all done. Now what we're going to do is we're going to change the color of the switch circle. So we're going to remove the color that we gave it, just the temporary color here. We just reset that so it's see-through. You can just about see it there. And we're going to add background color, which one? Background color light 2, we'll say. Background color light 2. Yeah, that looks good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make the link wrapper, make this link here, show me the way, more of a button. So we'll go in, and I've just seen this HTML embed 5 needs a better class name. So instead of HTML embed 5, let's just rename that to SVG arrow 2. Better. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is give this some padding on all sides, and let's just give it 11 pixels of padding, and holding down shift I can apply that to all sides. Great. And we'll give it a background color now to turn it into a button. So we'll say, actually no, sorry, before we give it a background color we need to apply the border radius. So we'll give it let's say 50 pixels border radius. You won't see that yet. Now we'll apply background color light 2. Now you can see it. Next thing, we need a bit more space in between elements. So if we click on the dark light subheading here, we want to add a top margin of like let's say 1 rem to this. Now this kind of brings up something you have to be a bit careful of. So you don't want to add it to text color light 2. You don't want to add it to the combo class. You want to add it to the dark light subheading. So you have to remember when you're doing these kinds of things to delete text color light 2 before you change the element, before you change styles on the element. So I deleted it. I'm going to add a top margin here, right there, of 1 rem, and then just reapply the class. It's kind of hassly, but it's just so you don't get all those kind of awkward things that come from applying styles to combo classes, and then if you change the combo class slightly, the styles go all askew. So you just have to remember that. For example, now I want to add a top margin to the link wrapper, so I'm going to have to again remove background color light 2, and then only then add a top margin of 1.5 rem to that, and then reapply background color light 2. So yeah, that looks good. That's our main light default page fully styled now. We don't have to do those styles again for the dark because all of the style changes now are going to be JavaScript. They're going to be programmatic. So that's what we're going on to do next. So to start the JavaScript custom code, what we need first of all is a way of identifying and targeting the various elements that need to be changed when the mode switches. And we're going to do that using attributes. There are many ways to do it. You could use classes, you could use IDs. We're going to use attributes, and you'll see why as we get into it. So rather than try and explain the theory behind it, I'm just going to show you as we go along. So for example, section hero home here has the class background color light 1 applied. So we're going to give it a corresponding attribute in this section here, a custom attribute if you just click add. And we don't need a value, we just want the name just in order to target it. So we're going to say background color 1 and just make sure that's added like that. Great, and you can leave and we'll go down to the next element that has a color class attached. So it's a dark light heading, for example. So we go over dark light heading here, we can see it's got text color light 1. Now to text color light 1, we're going to add the attribute text col 1. So over here, custom attribute, name, text color 1. Done. We'll go down to the subheading here and into attribute again. Look at the subheading text color light 2 and into custom attributes. We're just going to give it the name text col 2. And the text link, the link, actually we'll go to the background first. So the link wrapper has a background color light 2 and we're going to give that an attribute of bg col 2. And then the link text color light 2, text col 2. Now what you will notice is we're not identifying whether it's light or dark, and that is so that regardless of the mode, these attributes will remain the same. So we'll be able to target the actual element that needs switching without having to say whether it's currently light or dark. So all we want to know is, do we want the second or the first version of the background or the text color to be applied, style to be applied? So we'll keep going here. So SVG arrow 2. I presume that's text color 2. Yeah, text color light 2. So the attribute is going to be text col 2. Have we got them all? No. Switch circle is background color light 2. Custom attributes, background color 2. So let's see, we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Should have changed 7. We'll just quickly go in and make sure they're all done. So section hero home, background color is 1, 2, 3, 4, nope, oh yeah, 5, 6, and the circle is 7. Great. So they're all the attributes that we need to target. They're all the elements that need targeting for the color switch. And again, you only need to add the name. We don't need a value because all we're using this attribute for is to target the element. The other thing we need to do quickly is add 2 IDs. We're going to add an ID of mode switch to the switch circle element because it's going to be, we're going to target that in the JavaScript and it's just easiest to use an ID for that. So yeah, we'll just type mode switch into the ID for that. And then for heading 1, we're going to give this an ID of heading 1 for the main heading. And now we'll actually start writing some custom JavaScript. Great, so to write the JavaScript, we will eventually put this into the project settings custom code, but for now, because it's just easier to go back and forth and check it, we're going to write it in this custom, before the body tag custom code section here. So to start, we just need 2 script tags to put it into, like that. And the first part of this is going to be to try and collect all the variables that we eventually want to use. So the first one, we will say let mode switch equals document.querySelector, and we'll select the ID of mode switch, which is the ID we just created on the switch circle, if you remember. And then we're going to create variables for all of those attributes that we just defined. So this is where basically we collect them all. So the first one we're going to say let background color 1 elements equals document.querySelector all, because there's going to be more than one. So we want to like grab them all in there. And to select the attribute, we do those 2 square brackets, and we're going to say background color 1. So this is why we just added all those attributes. So this basically is creating an array of all the elements on the page with background color 1 attached to it. And the benefit of this is that if you now want to create more elements after you've already implemented all your style changes, you can just add them in and the code will quickly group those into the array and all of the styles will be applied to them. You don't have to like redo the JavaScript. So that's background color 1 elements. The next one is background color 2 elements. Again, document.querySelector all, and the exact same thing. 2. The next one is let text color 1 elements. And again, you know, if you don't want to type it all out, you can actually just copy and paste these. And we'll say text color 1. We'll do the exact same for text color 2. Great. So there are your 4 variables that will eventually represent 4 arrays of all of the attributes, of all the elements on the page with these attributes in them. So they're all selected and ready for use. I'll just check that there's no typos quickly. Background color 1, background color 2, text color 1, text color 2, text color 1 elements, text color 2 elements. Great. The next one then is you want to create the switch button background. So we need a variable that has the switch button's background in it. So we'll say, we'll call that background switch image. Because obviously when we do the mode change, we want to be able to switch that image out to the dark version or the light version. So background switch image is going to be document.querySelector. And for this one, I mean, we could write an ID for it, but for this one, because we only have the one class called switch, we can just use the class there as a selector. Okay. Then the next thing, in order to be able to change those images, we want to target the address that Webflow has for each of the images. So we're going to create 2 constant variables, and one of them is going to be called dark switch background image. Nope, just trying to keep it consistent with the blog. So dark switch background URL, because that's more specific to what it actually is. We'll just leave that open for now, and we'll do another one which is const light switch background URL. Okay, and in order to get these, we're going to put these into quotes, and we're going to get these URLs from, we'll save this code quickly, and then we're going to go to here, and we'll just click on the little cog there. It says light 2, and what we want to do is that's to open the image. We just want to copy the link, so we just click that, and that copies the URL of that image. So that's the light one. We go back to home, reopen the code here, and this is why we're doing it on the page, so we don't have to go constantly between the project settings and this bit here. So sorry, that was the light one, so we'll just add that URL in there like so, and then we're going to do the same. We'll save that, and we're going to do the same for the dark. So if we go to the cog again, copy that there, go back down here and we add that in there, and we'll save that again. So now basically we have all of the variables that are on the page. We're going to set up 2 more variables, one of which we haven't created yet, but we will, and we may as well have them set up already. So the first one is heading 1 content, and that's going to be document.get element by ID. Now I'm just using various JavaScript techniques for selecting different elements on the page. You know, you could use query selector here and then just use the hash symbol, obviously, but you know, just to mix it up, to get element by ID, and I think we call that heading 1. So I didn't explain at the time when I said, you know, add an ID to that heading. So the idea is that we're going to change the content of the text based on whether it's light or dark mode. In order to do that, obviously, we need to select that first. So we're going to select heading 1. Now heading 1 is going to apply to the first page, and heading 2 is going to apply to the second page. So even though heading 2 doesn't exist yet because we haven't created a second page, we're just going to add that in here so that it's already there when we need it. And that's going to be heading 2. Great, so there, oh, oopsie, put that there, and we'll just add these semicolons on the end. You don't really need to add the semicolons, but it's kind of still, I think, best practice too. I didn't add them to these guys. So these are the basis now of the variables that we need in order to target various elements on the page. The next thing we're going to be doing is looking into starting up the local storage. So that's next. So local storage is a property on the window object, and it allows us to save key value pairs to the DOM, so small amounts of data to the DOM. Now the key that we're saving is going to be called mode, and then the 2 values are going to be, the mode is either going to be light or dark, and that's how we're going to structure that kind of saving of data in local storage. So the first thing we need to take into account is when the user arrives at the site for the first time, there's going to be no mode saved to local storage. So we need to account for that so that it doesn't cause an error with our code. So the first thing we're going to say is we're going to say if local storage dot get item, which is the property on local storage. It's how you kind of retrieve the value of a particular key. So we're going to say get item mode, because that's our key. If that is null, so if there's no mode set at all, if you can't find a mode, basically, so if that is null, close that brackets, what do we do? And we're going to say local storage dot set item. And we're going to set a mode straight away, and the mode we're going to set is light. So basically, go look for a mode in local storage. If it comes back that there's no mode, set the default mode, which is light, because we've already created the default landing page so that when a user opens the site for the first time, they're going to see the light mode, which is why we're setting that as a default. So that takes care of a situation where a user comes to the page for the first time. The next thing we want to do is when the user hits the switch. So first thing we need to do for that is we need to set an event listener on the mode switch. So if you remember, we added an ID of mode switch to the circle, and then we created the variable that kind of encapsulates that ID. So that element is captured by the variable mode switch. So now we just need to write mode switch dot add event listener. And the event listener, it's going to listen for clicks, and we're going to write an arrow function for that. And let's say, so when a user clicks on the mode switch, we're going to say if, again, we're going to go look in the local storage. So we're going to say if local storage dot get item mode is light. We'll start with light. So if it's light, we want to switch it to dark because it's a switch. So local storage dot set item, and we're going to set the mode to dark. And we'll also add in a quick console log just so that when we're testing it, you can see. We'll say dark mode activated. And then we'll do an else statement underneath. So else if local storage dot get item mode If when we look for it, it is dark, then we want to switch it to light. So we'll do again, local storage, set item. Great, and we'll again add a console log so you can see it, and we'll say light mode activated. Super, so that is it. And if we publish this, as long as I didn't do any typos or syntax errors, I'm trying to quickly scan for them. So let's save that, publish it. Oh, actually, before we do that, I wonder, will that interfere? We might quickly, might quickly just go in here and comment out heading 2, because as it doesn't exist as an element, it might just throw an error. So let's just publish that again. I can't decide whether or not that would have thrown an error, but just to be safe, better be safe than sorry. So now if we open this, let's see, we'll just quickly check the console for any errors that currently exist. No, it looks good. So when we click the switch, that code that we just wrote, so actually I'll show you where first local storage is saved. So here is local storage, and here you can see light dark mode. And currently for some reason it seems to be dark, and now it's light. And now it's dark. Oh, I must have hit the switch when we started in. So if I hadn't hit the switch, it would have been, it would have started off as light, but I must have tapped the switch. So it goes dark, light, dark, light. And if we go to console, you'll see those console logs. And just to double check that, actually, what we can do here, so we go to application, we can delete our local storage. So delete all of that, close this down, we'll reopen it. Now it should be light, ideally, if this is working correctly, and it is, because we wrote that default statement that said if there's no local storage, set it to light. And now if we click the switch, you can see dark light, dark light, dark light, and it changes there. And if we go to console, there's the console logs. I'm going to delete those console logs because there's no need for them. It was just to show you this working. So that is the basis of the local storage code setup. We'll go down, just quickly have a look there. Yeah, so after this, now what we need to do is actually change the styles as the mode changes. So we already have like a reference for when it's dark or light in local storage, and now we just need to make the corresponding styles change at the same time. So the first style change we're going to target is the actual background image of the switch itself. So if you remember, we set the addresses, the URLs right here. So we've got dark switch background URL and light switch background URL, and we're going to put it inside the switch, right? So just under where we change the actual local storage, we're going to say background switch image. Background switch image, which if you remember is targeting the class. So it's up here where we said background switch image, and we selected the switch class. So background switch image, and we're going to target the actual background image. So we want to do style.background image, and that has to be camel case because you're writing it in JavaScript. And that should target it. So then we're going to use template literals. So we want 2 of those little ticks, and we write URL and open curly brace, and then we're going to put $, curly braces, and into that template literal, let me see if that correctly put, yeah. Into that template literal, we will put our variable name, which was dark switch background URL. That was it, background URL. So we're targeting so if the mode is light, we switch the mode, if when you look for it, the mode is light, we switch the mode to dark, and then we also switch the background switch image style background image, and then we set the URL. We want that to be the dark background URL. And we're doing that with a template literal, and rather, we could put the entire address in here, but that would just make this kind of difficult to read. So we define them up here, and then we're just putting the variable using $, curly braces, dark switch background URL. Let me just check that's correctly written. It is. And then we want to do the exact same thing down here. So we'll just copy this line, copy that whole thing, and go down under where it's light. paste it in, and that's all the same. The only thing that changes is here the variable used. Obviously we want light switch background URL, and I think that should do it. So if we save and publish that now, we'll open that. So now as we click the switch, the modes should change and the little background image here should also change. And it does after a little bit of a delay. So that's working nicely. So now we just need to fill in the rest of the styles, and we're going to do that next. It's going to be quite a large function, but I'll walk you through the various elements of it as I write it. And we'll just switch that back to light. Great, so I'm going to start defining the function, and this function is going to seem a little bit tricky at first, but it's quite simple, and I'll try and explain it as I go along. So we're going to call the function changeStyles. And this obviously is the function definition, so this is going to be abstract. It's an abstraction of what we're actually going to use it for. So when I'm going to write in 4 parameters that the changeStyle function will always take. It's going to be background color 1, background color 2, text color 1, and text color 2. Now, in reality, when we call this function, these abstractions are going to be the actual class names of the 1 or 2 style classes of either light or dark. So for instance, we're going to call changeStyles when we want it to shift to light mode. It's going to be changeStyles, background color light 1, background color light 2, text color light 1, text color light 2. And they're always going to be the styles that we apply to light mode, and vice versa for dark mode. So this will become a little bit clearer when we actually call it, but for now we're just going to define the function. So it'll be changeStyles, and the parameters are background color 1, background color 2, text color 1, and text color 2. And then we'll write what the function does in here. So those are the 4 parameters that are called by a function. And now what we're going to do is we're going to target those 4 arrays that we created. So it'll be background color 1 elements, because what we called it. And we're going to do a little loop inside the array. So for each element in that array, we'll do an arrow function, and we're going to apply this code to each element in the background color 1 elements array. So the first one is element.classList.remove. I'll explain this now in a second. I'm just going to write it out first. So background color light 1, background color dark 1. This is background color 1 element, so background color dark 1, that's right. Okay, so what this does, this first line inside the array, so what we're doing is we're targeting that array of all elements with the attribute bgcol1. So whether it's light or dark, those elements are in this array. And what we're doing then is we're saying, so take the element, so for each element in this array, so it goes through each one, it's a loop. For the first element, for example, take the element, look at the class list, so look at the all of the classes that are attached to that element, and remove both these classes basically. So it's going to be background color 1, so it's either going to have background color light 1 or background color dark 1 as a class on that element. And this is saying just strip it of all the classes. So get rid of both those classes. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a class. And we're going to say element.classList.add. And we're going to, the class that we're going to add is the class that is passed into the changeStyles function. So this first parameter, background color 1, we're saying add that class. So add whatever class this variable represents. And again, this will become clearer, but basically what this does is it says, look at the background color 1 elements array. So all of the attributes, all of the elements that those attributes have targeted that have put them in this array, for each of those elements that have either background color light 1 or background color dark 1, they have one of those 2 classes are attached to them. Remove both the classes and then add back whatever class is represented by this parameter. And again, this will be clearer when you actually see us call, when we call the changeStyle function. So that's the first array. And we're going to do the same for all 4 arrays. So to make this faster, I'm just going to copy that code and paste it here. And we're going to say background color 2 elements for each element, remove background color light 2 and background color dark 2. And then for the two text ones, I will write those out just so there's no mistakes. So let's say for the first text one, I'm saying text color 1 elements, I think is what it's called, for each element, another arrow function. I'm going to say element.classList.remove, and the classes attached to text color 1 elements are always going to be text color light 1 or text color dark 1. And then we want to add back whatever is represented by this parameter here. And actually, sorry, I just noticed that I didn't change this here. So this should be 2. So we're going to add back whatever is represented here, not 1 again. And then down here, we're going to add back text color 1. So whatever class, whichever of these classes is represented by text color 1 gets added back to that particular element that it's looping through. So we can copy this code and we'll just add it for text color 2 elements, and same, this is going to be light 2 and dark 2, and then we have to change this variable here to text color 2, which is represented here, right? So that is that's the basic changeStyles function. It is a lot to take in straight away, and it is abstracted, so it will be again clearer when we write it out. But basically, yeah, it's looking for all of those arrays. It takes all the arrays that we defined, and when you call it, basically it'll say changeStyles, and these will be classes that you want to change it to. So if we're changing to light mode, this is going to say background color light 1. This is going to say background color light 2, text color light 1, and text color light 2. And we'll define those later. But this is the function that does the actual switching. So that looks pretty good. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add that function. So we're going to call the changeStyles function in the two sections where it would actually be working. So the first bit, let's say when we actually click the switch, so here, so if the switch is currently set to light, we want to set it to dark, and then right under that, right under where we change the background image, what we want to do is change those styles. So we can call changeStyles here, and we will want to change all of those. So this is where we put in the real parameters. So the first one is going to be background color dark 1. Second one is going to be background color dark 2. Then we're going to say text color dark 1 and text color dark 2. So now you can see that that's how we're using the function. So we'll just copy this quickly. I mean, it's a lot to change, and we'll put it down under the background switch here, paste it in. Now this one, as you can see, is changing it to light. So instead of background color dark 1, we'll just switch these out. This is the class, and I can see an error here already. So just do light 2, go up here and put a hyphen in there so that the class is correct. And then move across. So here, text color, that's going to be light 1. And here, text color, again, that's going to be light 2. Super. Okay, so we're calling it now when we actually hit the switch. And the other place I guess we want to call changeStyles is, no, we don't want to call it here, sorry. So we can actually save this and test it. So if we save that there and publish it, let's fix that to publish. Okay, so let's see if this works. When we hit the switch, all the styles change. And when we hit the switch again, they change back. So that basically shows you the function working. Now we have a few little things we need to change. For example, the switch, when we hit it, we want it to actually move. So we'll animate that next because otherwise it just looks a bit strange. But yeah, there you go. So right before we animate the switch, I do need to add in another small bit of code for when the user loads the page. It'll just avoid errors if the user has come back to the page after already having been there. So we're going to write if local storage dot get item mode equals light. What we want to do are all of the same things as down here. So we're actually just going to copy and paste this, to be honest. So this, if the mode is light, no, this is when the page loads, sorry. So when the page loads, if it's light, we just want to stick with the light mode. They haven't asked to change anything, so we just want that. We want the page to reflect what the current mode is. So if we go here, we say background switch image and change styles. Yeah, that's correct. So here we'll just copy those two in. So this first bit of code is if you get to the page and there's no mode, set it to light mode. This says if you get to the page and the mode is already light, so like they've been there previously and the mode is set, then make sure that the style elements on the page correspond to the light mode, basically. So we'll put in an else if here, and we'll say if you get to the page and local storage dot get item if the mode is already dark, then we want to do dark mode styles, which we'll copy and paste from here. So that should avoid any errors on page load. So basically, if you get to the page, the user hasn't clicked a switch or anything, but if they get to the home page and there's already a mode set, remember that last mode. So it's like if they had been on the page and they closed down the page and they'd selected dark mode, that dark mode key value pair, so mode equals dark, is going to be set in local storage, and the page needs to reflect that, because if it doesn't and we go and switch it with the code, then the switch won't reflect the actual styles that should be set, if that's clear. So this will avoid any of those issues. So yeah, with that done, I'll just quickly save that custom code there. And what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and animate the switch. So we're going to select the switch circle here. Let's just clear that out. Select the switch circle, and we're going to do a mouse click tap element trigger on first. We're going to start a new animation, create a new timed animation. We'll call it switch click switch click 1 animation. And we're going to do new action on move. So the first switch circle, we want to set an initial state. We're going to leave interaction trigger as what's affected, and we're going to just set these all at 0 pixels so that the initial state is that. We're going to duplicate that switch circle there, leave the duration for 0.5, and we're going to just change the X axis move to 60 pixels. So it just pops it over. And then what we also want to do is change the easing. So I'm going to do kind of a fun easing, which is out bounce. And I can show you what that looks like by pressing preview play. So it's got a little bounce at the end of it. And that's that switch moved over that way. So we can just save that. That's perfect. And what we're going to do on second click, so it's sitting over here. We're going to click it again. It's going to move back. We'll start new animation. And what we actually want to do is just duplicate what we've done here, select it, and then we can change the name. So we'll say switch click 2. Oh, not 12. And delete the second 2. And then in here, on second click, we want it to go back to the initial position. So we'll just delete the second move, and then we'll change this move that's already on 0 pixels, but we'll take away set as initial state. So that'll actually move it backwards. And then we want to set this again to out bounce and save that. So now if we publish, there should be no errors on page load regardless of whether or not there's a mode set, and also the little switch should animate back and forth, and it should correspond to the correct style changes as well. So we open this now, dark, light, dark, light, dark. So now we'll just test this. So we're leaving this page on dark. I'm going to close down the page on the internet. I'm going to close that browser page and I'm going to reopen it. And ideally it remembers that it's dark mode and it should be dark. And there it is. That is dark. That's light, dark, light. So that works perfectly. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually add a second page to all of this. So page 2, very simply just go to the pages. We're going to choose the cog on home. We're going to duplicate home and we're just going to call this page 2. And then we are going to create it. And they are going to be identical. So the custom code will be in each, it'll be the same on both pages. The other thing that we need to make sure just while we're changing things is that if we make any change, for example, on page 2, if we make a change here, we have to copy and paste it into the home page. And that'll be until we remove it from both these separate sections and just put it at the project level. But for now, we just have to make sure that it's identical in both places. So for, let's see, we're on home there. We're going to switch to page 2 and we're just going to change what it says here. So instead of welcome to the light, page 2 can say light travels. And then the subheading can say and meets you on the next page. And we will, and we'll say here, show me the way back. And then with the SVG here, what we're going to do is just going to move it to the other side. And then we're going to go back to Lucide and take the chevron left, which is, I already had it selected. Copy the SVG code for that. And then just paste it in here. So copy all of that and paste it over it. Save it. And then we have that now. The next thing we need to do is link up the links. So the link wrapper here, show me the way back. We're going to choose to link that to the home page. And then if we go to the home page, and we connect the link wrapper here, we're going to choose that page 2 and now we can publish. Publish that and see if that actually works. Okay, so let's open this. So this is the home page and we click, let's change it to dark mode. And there we have it. Light travels, meets you on the next page. Back to light mode. Back to dark mode. So the styles persist across pages. They persist if you close and open a new browser. And now the last thing we were going to do just to finish it off is change the actual text, the text content of this, depending on whether we're in light or dark mode. Okay, so to change the text content, we're going to open up on the home page, we're going to open up the custom code here. And the first section we're going to do that is in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to do it conditionally on whether or not the heading 1 content variable is on the page. Otherwise, it'll throw an error. So if you remember, we have these two variables here, and we set two IDs. We set heading 1 on page 1 and heading 2 on page 2 for the main heading sections. And that's what we're going to change. That's the text we're going to change. So if the mode is light when page loads, we want the light headings to be represented. So we're going to say if heading 1 content. This is just a conditional to check if heading 1, if that ID is on the page, then do the following. It's going to be one line, so we don't need to do the curly braces. We're just going to write it at one line. So heading 1 content dot text content, which is how you change the text content of an element using JavaScript, equals welcome to the light. And then underneath, we're going to say if heading 2 content, heading 2 content dot text content equals light travels. Okay, so we're going to just take both those lines there and we're going to add it to dark mode and just change them a little bit. So first one is if heading 1 content, this will be welcome to the dark. And then this is going to say the dark travels. And now we're going to take the light again here. So this is on page load and this is on the switch. So we're going to put it under changeStyles. So if the mode is light, we're switching it to dark. This is in the incorrect spot. So let's just put that where it should be. So if it's dark, we're switching it to light, that goes there. And then let's take the dark ones here and we'll add those in here. Just line those up a bit better, add a colon there and there. So that should work. So the text now should change and that should persist either on page load or using the switch button. So we'll save that and yes, before I forget, we need to copy all of that, save it there, and we need to paste it on page 2 because we haven't switched it out yet. Copy it there and save it, and now we'll publish. Okay, so that's published, and let's open and have a look. So here we have welcome to the light, and that switches to welcome to the dark. And if we switch there, it says the dark travels and meets you on the next page. We change that to light, the light travels, meets you on the next page. So that's exactly what we wanted to do. So that's everything pretty much done. The one thing we'll do just before we finish up completely is I'm going to take now the custom code that I have here, which is identical on both pages, and we're going to copy that. We're actually going to cut it from there and save it. And we will go into the project settings now. And we're going to go into the custom code area of the project settings, and we will save that into the footer code. So that will appear on all pages and you don't have to copy it over and back. We'll save that and we'll go back to the designer. And we'll go to page 2 now and delete it from page 2. So we'll select all that, delete it and save. And now we'll publish again. And unless I've made a horrible mistake, that should now work fine when we open it. Light travels, the dark travels. Show me the way back. Welcome to the dark. So yeah, that's perfect. And that's everything. So well done for getting to the end. We've covered an awful lot of ground. I'm going to be dividing this video up so that you can quickly go back and forth to whatever section you need to. Remember, we also have a blog article of all of this content written out. So if you want to quickly grab some code, that might be a useful option for you. And we've made the finished product a clonable. You can quickly clone and use in your Webflow projects. So if you've enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. If you have any comments, please do so. And yeah, that's everything. Thanks.